Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brain Injury Radio Network and our program moving forward on the third Sunday of each month. I'm your host, Kelly KJ Jones, brain injury survivor, life coach, and author. My co-host, Dr. Valentina Pacquiao Cornejo, a bilingual clinical psychologist, is here to discuss the emotional aspects that coincide beyond our physical injuries. Moving forward, we'll host candid discussions with persons who have experienced neuroinflammation and certified clinicians who have assisted survivors. Their insight on discovery, the line between pain tolerance and pain threshold, as well as pathways to success, will provide hope and more options on how to build momentum for a sustainable recovery. So I'm here with Dr. Valentina. Dr. Valentina, how are you tonight?
I am doing great, and I just got a text from Christy, so I'm going to make sure that I send her as we're talking your number so she can call you directly because she said, some Wi-Fi issues given the outages at Delta, right? So she's stuck in Florida because of a storm, she said.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
So, I wonder if she can call in, we can put her on speaker.
Oh, you know what? Okay, that would be great if because she said she's just trying to call into the studio. So yes, I can go into the email because you're saying there's probably a phone number in there.
Right. Well, if she's texting you, no,
Yes,
she emailed you or she texted you.
she texted. And see, I don't see a phone number in here because I know Zoom does have a phone number actually. I just, because if she could call that, then she could be in this, and that would be the best because her sounds, we won't
Okay.
have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Being on speaker. She
Okay.
really shouldn't call you or me. She should call Zoom. But I gotta
Okay.
look up the phone number
Well,
for Zoom.
listen, guys, let me explain to you what's going on while we're having this conversation. So basically, the based on what happened on Thursday with Microsoft and the outage, etc., the podcast channel is not working at this time. So because
Hmm.
it's not working, we're kind of improvising, trying to figure out what to do. So we came up with this idea of doing a Zoom,
Hmm.
and and our guest is trying to figure out how to dial in and connect with us. So what we're
Yeah.
doing is we're just starting the show off as usual. And
Yeah.
we're going to bring Christy in shortly, hopefully.
Yes.
If not, we'll start the Zoom all over again.
That's
But
right.
so so what I wanted to say is, Dr. Valentina, I sure have missed you. I'm so glad we're reconnecting.
Yes, me too. Me too. This has been a minute. Oh, our schedules have been so busy, but I'm so glad that we were able to get here together because these shows are definitely much needed.
Yeah, I met a young lady today at the marina and she was like, "And what time is the show coming on?" And da 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 da.
Wow.
And her enthusiasm, like sometimes you don't
Wow.
hear
Yes. You
that
don't
the
get to
show is
hear the
making a
guests.
difference and you wonder if it's making a difference, but then you get that
Mhm.
one person that you run into
Yes.
and their fire, their excitement shows you that you know what, this is important, this is needed.
Wow. It's
So,
true. It's true. That definitely helps. And maybe one day we can actually open up the calls to like questions.
yes,
I think that would say it directly, right? They would speak directly to how impactful this is.
right.
We know that people are loving it though. I mean, with nearly 70,000 listeners, I mean, that's big.
That is huge. That is huge. So I want to ask you a quick question while we're waiting on Chrissy to come on. I saw this article which I just thought was phenomenal.
Hmm.
It was something from the BCC. It's something that they're doing in London where they have
Hmm.
these rucksacks, RUCKSACKS, and it's actually just a book bag that they've
Hmm.
given to 1,200 students between the ages of 10 and 12, and it's a mental health bag. It has four focus areas for students. They are sleep, movement, self-compassion, and friendship. So they have items in their book bag such as games and puzzles, etc., around those four areas. What are your thoughts
Hmm.
on this type of book bag?
Well, actually, I would have appreciated more like games and puzzles. Well, I did see that there was like cards in there. There was like it said a what are those they're like collector items for some. It's superhero type of magazines. I forget what they call.
Comic
Comic.
books.
Thank you. Thank you. It's like charades here we play. Verbal charades. Yeah, like I feel like they don't necessarily need to. get further into sort of their imagination. I know that that could be a healthy coping mechanism when like one is in a stressful, traumatic situation. You know, this is typically what people do is they will escape that reality, right? Because you got the fight, flight, freeze, so they can't fight. You know what I'm saying? So they might flight, right? Leave.
Hmm.
Um, mentally, right? By escaping and going somewhere else, like in their mind to the park with their friend or something. But the problem is that that functional behavior that is helpful in that time, if done too often, becomes dysfunctional. This is how you get traumatic based symptoms or disorders like schizophrenia. A lot of people don't know that that's a trauma based disorder, you know, and that's
Really?
part of why they suffer with the delusions and the hallucinations. And so what I would say is, you know, instead of taking them deeper into their imagination with comic books, we would have like those card games that they have in there. There would be sensory, sort of physical toys or gadgets, things that they can use. They also had journals, notebooks, which I appreciated because people part of, you know, need to get the stuff out. And that's part of why therapy works is because they're getting it out. But sometimes they don't have access to that service. So at least having a journal, you know, maybe if they had like some paint, you know what I'm saying, to introduce
Mhm.
people to that concept right in the bag, because it was a big old bag, you know, so
Yes, yes.
throw in some paint, throw in some, you know, something for them to paint on, you know, throw in like, I mean, there's just like, I mean, I also think about the parents, right? Like you have parents of these children who obviously also need like resources. I mean, you can't enact change at the child level without engaging the family system. And so like it would I feel like when you're giving a child a bag or a teenager a bag, give the parent a bag. And maybe in that bag, it's like because you probably can't give this to the child, right? But you could give it to the parent, you know, information on you know, the I don't know, I'm thinking about like melatonin and information on like the how John Wort, St. John Wort is being used to treat depression in Europe. But you know, but out here you see what I'm saying? Like just
Mhm.
stuff like that you know what I'm saying?
One
Like
of the things
mhm.
that I was thinking, Dr. Valentina, is that did you hear the story about it was last year about David Balagan? He's a 9-year-old that graduated from high school in
Wow.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Wow. No.
And yeah, well, you're familiar with Mensa, right?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
had a client who was thinking about going there, was eligible.
So this is my challenge is that
Mhm.
when I used to teach, I ran into some kids that were truly geniuses. They were very, very smart, but because they were not
Mm,
being challenged at that level, that's like you're ready to do exponential equations and your teacher just keeps
mm,
giving you 2 plus 2. They started
yes,
to become disruptive. So if
that's
you're
it.
putting together a bag like this, I think that it
Yes,
needs to address the fact that you have some people who are, um,
yes,
really, really advanced in
yes,
learning, and
yes,
maybe their adverse behavior is because they're bored. And
yes.
sometimes because
Wow.
teachers are not at that level that the student is at,
Yes,
what they do is they try to reprimand the behavior and get more
yes,
into the details versus actually getting into, the vision of what can come next. And
that's right.
David had to have a powerful teacher. Well, he was homeschooled too, but he had to have a
Okay.
powerful presence in order for him to have the opportunity to excel and succeed.
Wow.
I mean, it's not that sometimes it's just that kids are not given the opportunity because the teacher or the parent or whomever is around them
Mm-hmm.
may feel like um,
Mm-hmm.
they'll lose control. They'll lose
Yes,
control if they allow the kid to do something else. Do you know what I
yes,
mean? Or
I
or to
do.
enter into an
No,
right.
no, no. You are so right. I literally, and this is why I'm so excited about our guest because she talks about like, you know, how people are, you know, who suffer from these neuroinflammation like disorders, right? Neuroinflammation based disorders can oftentimes be called something that they aren't. Like everybody thinks that, you know, your dysregulated behavior around sounds is because of autism, right? Especially if you then prefer to be alone when it could be a sensory processing issue. And it's the same with like giftedness, which is what you're getting at. They often think that if you're inattentive, it must be, or if you talk excessively, right, in class, that it must be because of ADHD. be because of boredom. Like you can be gifted, you can be
Yes.
stimulated, you could literally like have finished your work. And in some cases, do you know if you look this stuff up, it'll tell you that those children have academic struggles. Not it don't tell you the why. And that's why I always say stop focusing people on the what and get at the why. Because when you
Come
get at
on,
the
girl.
see what
Come
I'm
on.
saying, you start to really realize that there are other neurodevelopmental or even like situations because you can't really call giftedness a bad thing, like it's not a a disorder, I guess a condition, a positive good condition, that share symptoms that overlap across these other neurodevelopmental concerns. So if you just are focused on, oh, ADHD is the author of, or is the ruler of, or is the, what I'm saying, best explanation for this behavior, then you're going to misdiagnose. And that some people might think, well, no big deal. At least I get services. But think about when the wrong person gets a hold of that diagnosis. Now all of a sudden it impacts like the treatment because some everybody doesn't do treatment like how a psychologist would with therapy and school accommodations, or if it's an adult therapy and work accommodations. You know what I'm saying? If it's a psychiatrist, and they're one that's really clear on their route being beneficial, then their treatment option is going to be some kind of drug, psychiatric drug. And if the diagnosis is off, and even though now they don't have a drug for autism, they're still looking for one. They'll at least treat the disruptive behaviors. You see what I'm saying? Like it's just bad out here.
Dr. Valentina, I hear all the
Yes.
time, if we can just get them to sit and be quiet, then
Mm,
we can then we
mm-hmm.
can, try other things. And sometimes sitting and being quiet mask the core
Yes. Yeah.
symptoms. So now you've masked it and you can't treat it because you don't see it. You don't understand, you think everything's okay, but what's
Yes.
happening is it's growing and it's festering underneath because you never treated the symptom. You treated the social behavior. Like
Wow.
you've numbed the individual. I
Yeah.
always say, like it's
Yeah.
self-awareness is so important and really understanding the core of things and understanding people's gifts and strengths. So take for instance, I always use him. Take for instance Michael Jordan, right?
Yes.
And we know him as a basketball player. But
Yes.
imagine someone sees him as an athlete and they say, "Hey, Michael, you know what? I'm not going to let you play basketball until you score 10
Mm,
touchdowns," right? Because they're
mm,
trying to make you an
something that,
overall
wow.
athlete.
Yes.
But instead of allowing you to focus in on your genius, kind of like the
Wow.
Montessori approach, like helping you understand what your strength is, and then
Wow.
really nurturing that and developing that. And as you nurture and develop that, guess what? Michael Jordan is going to develop great communication skills because he's going to be interviewed all the time. Or somebody's going to pull him aside and say, "Hey, look, you're a superstar genius. You're going to, in basketball, you're going to be doing several interviews. Let's sit down and coach you on how to interview." Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Or
Yes,
or you're going to
absolutely.
be this. Let us coach you on how to do this type of thing. But if you
Wow.
and that's because he excelled in his area of expertise, which is basketball, that you
Yes.
can now build him in other areas. We
Wow.
cannot make everybody an overall,
Hmm.
student or overall genius. Yeah, I mean,
It's true.
you
It's
you
true.
need
You
more.
saying that, it just really, it makes me think about all the people who, I mean, who aren't walking in their calling because they were forced. I mean, because, to do what
Yes.
somebody want them to do. And honestly, that applies even to like like think about it. It makes me think of like ACEs, right? The impact of those adverse childhood experiences, right? These adverse experiences happening in your childhood,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
and how when it goes unaddressed, it stays with you, it impacts you, it doesn't go away, right? And
Hmm.
its impact, right? And its effect. And so that's, I mean, it's just sad because I had some clients even who, were just talking about like how they flunked out of college. And it wasn't because they were intellectually challenged, right? It was because they were being forced to pursue a career that they weren't interested in, right? Because you're talking
Yes.
force, but that
Yes.
can apply to like career, obviously. And so it's almost their rebellious way of like fighting back because they can't do it with words. With words, their parents will make them feel like nothing, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
you're gonna pursue something and waste money and have loans, and and that's why I always like try to get them when they're young, because I feel like if I could strengthen their mind and that interest, because if it's a part of your calling and your purpose and you're naturally good at it, even if it's cooking, if it's art, whatever it is that might seem silly to a parent because it's not the doctor, lawyer, you know what I'm saying, teacher
Hmm.
kind of ordeal. Like they end up being very successful when they pursue their calling because they're naturally glorifying their maker, right? Which is
Hmm.
going to come with great, like, blessing, great, like all type of, door openings. I mean, you probably heard about people who, thought, oh, I'm going to cut hair for a living, or I'm going to cut grass even, and ends up like, you know, doing it so well that they then get multiple trucks and create a business out of it. And now they have, like, people working for them. And, look around, these people are millionaires. You're
Yeah.
cutting hair and
Yeah.
cutting grass because they pursue what they're.
What they're passionate about, and when
That's
you're
it.
when you're doing what you're passionate about, you can be innovative and you can also be very detailed. I think
That's
about
right.
so the reason why I both wrote the book For It Is
Mm-hmm.
Tangible is because I was hearing so many kids talk to me about existential crises. Like
Mm,
they are just
yeah.
living everybody else's dream and they are numb. And
Wow.
if you hear from one or two people, then it's like, oh, okay. But when
Mm.
just about every young adult you talk to somehow references existential crises,
Yeah, that's
when you
something.
read, according to CDC, that 49.5% of adolescents have experienced a mental health crisis. When you
Mm.
see the escalating rate of what is it, opioid use
Oh,
and
yeah.
suicide, and
Yes.
60% increase in African American male suicides between the ages of 10 to 19. When you
Oh,
start
wait.
hearing all these statistics, and then also America is one of the loneliest countries in the world. So when you start
All these
hearing
people, and it's wow.
and when
Wow.
you
But
start
you
hearing,
know
well,
what?
think about it. Think about loneliness,
Yep.
Dr. Valentina.
Yep.
I'm talking to you, but I'm not getting anything out of the conversation. So
Mm,
I could
mm,
be talking to you and I could be
mm,
espousing all the things that I believe, but if it's
mm,
not important to me, right?
That's
It's just
right.
like something else in the it's actually an inconvenience and a waste of my time because I've got other
Yes.
things that I want to do, but I'm
Yes.
sitting here and I'm listening to you, right? Like I've
Wow.
got 10 other things that I want to do,
Wow.
but I'm taking X amount of
Yes.
time out to talk to
Yes.
you about
Yes.
something that I really don't care about because I want to get to
Yes.
those 10 other things that I do, you
It
know?
almost makes me think about, like, that's literally like social media. Like it's almost like an addiction because you don't want to do it. You know you're gonna spend all this time on it. You know you have these 10 other things you gotta do, whether it's homework, caring for your house if you're an adult, whatever it is. But you almost can't pull yourself away from it. It's not actually filling you up with anything but depleting you. I mean, think about all of the mental health repercussions, even physical health, financial health repercussions, spiritual health on people who, like, whether they're adults or teens who are like online. It
Well,
literally,
Dr.
and that's what
Valentina, I'm gonna say
it,
something though. I
mhm,
love myself some social media. I can't lie.
mhm.
because because I'm a very intense thinker. A part of my
Yeah.
makeup with being an ENTP is that I'm an
Okay.
originator. Like I like to do innovative things. I like to solve problems and not
Okay.
solve problems like two plus two. Like I
Yeah.
think that, there's more sustainable problems. So because I'm
Yes.
an originator, and I'm
Yes.
doing things from scratch, that is
Yes.
very, 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 very stressful. And
Yeah.
so because it is very stressful, I have to do high innovation, but I also have to
Yes.
do high relaxation. And the
Yes.
one thing
Yes.
that really relaxes me is dancing.
Oh,
So
nice. That's a
whether
natural
I do it,
antidepressant exercise. Natural
whether well,
antidepressant.
whether I do it or whether I watch it, it
Mm.
helps me. So when
Wow.
I am like, if I'm working on something and I'm just like, I'm reaching an impasse, I'm starting to get a headache, I
Hmm.
will flip on some social media and watch dancing for like 10 minutes, fine. And some things I'll watch two and three times, but I'll
Yes.
watch it for 5 or 10 minutes. And then after that, my creative juices are back and I can
Wow.
continue to do what I'm doing. But I have to,
But you see how that's very like focused and tailored versus you're looking at people who got, all of these filters on and this fake stuff and you don't know that it is because you're like a child in this, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like how even your parents are a child when it comes to sifting through what's the important versus spam junk email or what's important versus spam junk mail. You see what I'm saying? Like that's what you're doing is very focused and purposeful. What a lot of these people doing on social media is very unfocused. It's literally like an addiction. And as a matter of fact, the DSM, right, Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is what psychologists and psychiatrists medical doctors use when it comes to, like diagnosing a mental health condition, whether it's depression, anxiety, substance abuse, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, they're considering for the next edition to add, this all the screen time as an addiction. And that's dangerous.
Wow.
That's dangerous because some people they really do. I'm sure the criteria is going to involve like, the person becoming very combative when you try to like pull them away from it, despite warning them that they got, that this all they're gonna get is an hour, or that they got 30 minutes left and then 10 minutes left, But I mean, it's a thing, and it really, if the society was just better grounded, had higher morals, I mean, more some at all, really. It really it wouldn't. I feel like it wouldn't be like this. Now, before we get to this next thing, our girl told us, Christy, she indicated I gave her the Zoom number, but and I just happen to have the Zoom number in my phone because in my last place of employment, before I went into private practice, we would have a lot of Zoom meetings during COVID. So I saved that, but I need the passcode. And so if you could either text it to me so I could text it to her, or you could just give it to her straight up, that would be great. I can't even see my internet. Like my screen is frozen. So I'm glad that we're able to still just have this Zoom, me and you.
So wait, how would I get to the passcode then?
You would no,
Because
you because you could see it in the email that you sent me. Remember the with the link to Zoom and have like a passcode or a meeting ID. Like that's what I can't see to send her. I just have the regular Zoom phone number. That's how she gets into this meeting, but she'll get on via call, literally dialing in. Because remember, she doesn't have internet, but she could call. So all you need is to either send me or send her, whether you take a picture or whether you type it into your phone and then text it. Um, that because all I had, I literally my screen is like frozen, so I can't even get in my email. But I at least get, she at least has the phone number. Okay, perfect, 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 perfect. Excellent job. I'm forwarding that to her, and hopefully she'll be on right away. Okay, boom.
now, don't we have a story to tell?
I'm telling you, I just sent it to her, so um, hopefully she'll be in soon. But yeah, this is an excellent conversation. Maybe let's assuming that she's gonna come in, move into like, the different conditions that she's had the, I don't know if it's privilege or just that she's experienced
Right,
her child.
right. Yeah, I would love for her to tell her story. I mean, I know that we're limited on time. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm looking for her highest
Mhm.
high and her lowest low.
Yes.
What was the range of emotions? And then we can feel, we can talk through the in between. But
Yes.
the thing is, we want to let parents know who are having challenges that
Yes.
this story kind of talks to some of the lows and some of the highs.
Yes.
So there could be empathy in between, and that she's
That's right.
available. She's available. Dr. Valentina, you're available. I'm
Yes.
available.
That's
Um,
right.
and Dr. Valentina, before we go any further, can you just give us what is the best way to contact your office if someone wants to
Oh,
reach you?
yes. Great, great. Yes. So, I would say the best way is either phone or email. Literally, those two are equally as powerful. I mean, you know, um, obviously it's going to end in phone. So if you want to just start with phone, and that would be 773-431-0486. Again, listeners, 773, that's Chicago area code, 431-0486. But yes, if email is easier, just kind of sharing like what the presenting concern is and sort of what you're looking for, whether it is therapy or testing, that would be excellent. And I actually have like 10 contracting clinicians. So if, some of us are available on Sundays through Fridays, others are available afternoons, evenings. Most are available evenings. after work or sports, if it's a child team. So yeah, and we really do, and that's why I'm so excited about our guests, have like a clear understanding of these different conditions, these neuro, developmental conditions and the impact that they, have on relational, emotional, academic or work functioning. And we know how to sift through basically what is it, because I'm telling you, like her, I think it was I don't know exactly what they were wondering it was about, but I know she ended up being able to say, like, a lot of times people think it's this and it's sensory. And I'm just like, wow, when I heard that in that sort of pre-intro video, the Zoom,
Hmm.
I thought, oh wow, like that's big. That's already impressive to meet somebody who knows that, because I'm constantly educating people on that.
Right. And Dr. Valentina, I wanted to ask you, when
Mm-hmm.
you when we're looking at DSM-5, the
Mm-hmm.
diagnostic book that you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
I've read that there are over 10,000 different diagnoses. Approximately how many different diagnoses are there? Or approximately how many mental health diagnoses are there? Or neurological conditions are there? Do you know?
No, I didn't even know it was that many. You said 10,000 that's in the DSM?
That supposedly there's 10,000. I read it somewhere. Always into
Yeah,
all
I
those
mean, it
goofy facts.
probably, I mean, if you saw it, then it is what it is. It's a very big book. I mean, they literally cover from the beginning the neurodevelopmental concerns, right? That even adults are coming in to see me for, with as it relates to testing to figure out, do they have ADHD, when oftentimes it's, you know, a, I don't know, let's say like a sensory related concern, or do they have autism? And sometimes it's a speech issue versus at other times it could be a social anxiety concern, learning disorders, all of that, giftedness. So then getting into like, mood related issues, depression, anxiety. And with depression, you got major depressive disorder, you got this dysthymia, you got even like depression disorder unspecified, or the very mild one that we talked about in a previous show where we call it adjustment disorder, like something happened, maybe you're suffering from grief and loss and it's been over a year or two, and so maybe we're calling it now a adjustment disorder with depressed mood. To then the anxieties, which of course cover social anxiety, hoarding, PTSD, right? It's like so many.
Wait. So no, it's 300. So it says
So I was
DSM,
like, good, wow. Okay.
classification and diagnostic guide published by the American Psychiatric Association includes over 450 distinct definitions of mental disorders, right?
Okay.
And then I see 300. But I think the 10,000 was disorders, like not
like you
diagnosis.
saying like you're
Diagnosis.
saying also maybe even substance, like mental disorders will be separate from maybe substance, because there's also substance abuse is covered in there. They also have like fetishes that are in there. They got
In the
sexual
mental health
identity.
in the
Yeah,
DSM
in
5.
that DSM they got what do you call it, like sexual identity disorders, transvesticism. They have
Okay.
stuff on dementia,
Okay,
like
so let
disorders
me
that
say this.
basically I don't even see. Some disorders I don't even see. Like I
Right.
don't like people with dementia. Instead, I might help their families, cope,
So
you
this
know.
one says there are more than 10,000 known diseases. That's what I
Mm,
meant to say.
there you
There are
go.
10,000 known diseases and more than 3,500 laboratory tests,
Mm.
but only a small number of symptoms in comparison.
Ah, wow.
So
And this
any one
part,
symptom
yes.
may have a dozen, if not hundreds, of possible causes and test options.
Exactly. See, I need to get that what you're reading, and really like internalize it and be able to kind of share that with people, because I'm sharing it on a more minuscule, I feel like, level. But if they got that, hey, this stuff is written, it's established, it's because even medical professionals don't seem to, I mean, this is what we ran into in other shows, right? Like they're saying it's this, and we're like, dude, it's an aneurysm. Like we're knocking on aneurysm door. Like, you see what I'm saying? Or they all of this stuff, like assuming it's nothing or assuming it's something else. And like I said, nowadays, in my world, assuming it's ADHD and it's maybe giftedness, assuming it's autism and maybe it's a social anxiety disorder. Like that could be why they're socially awkward. That could be why, you know what I'm saying? I have clients who they literally get overwhelmed, like with um interactions and people because they're constantly working and reading into people's nonverbals, like, oh, her eyebrow just went up, or she just did this with her body. Is that something that I'm supposed to mimic? Am I supposed to acknowledge it? That's a lot of work for people who, you know what I mean, aren't
Mm-hmm.
aren't autistic, but they're reading these things. They're over analytical. It's like get out of your head, actually. you know?
Right, right, right. But also, you don't know what type of environment they are going
Oh,
home
yeah.
to or what other expectations there are. Like
That's right.
sometimes we say, "Oh, that's minimal," but
Mm, mm-hmm.
when they get home, it's something huge.
That's
So,
right. Like
yeah.
hostile. Like if you, it's really true. There are some parents who are just very, very extremely difficult. Everything upsets them. I mean, they make up rules as they go, right? Like first is don't take out more than one toy. Then is why, don't have it in the living room. Then it's why do you have it all this out in your bedroom? I mean, it's
Is that
pretty bad.
micromanagement? So, you know what,
Yeah,
Dr. Valentina, I'm
beyond.
so glad you brought that up. I just want to say this really
Yeah.
quickly. I
Yes.
had a conversation with two people earlier today about that, right? And what we were saying is, I said,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people don't have like if I don't have anything at home, if I don't have kids, if I don't have spouse,
Mm-hmm.
if I don't have parents, if I don't have a lot of, those other things, I mean, my friends are far away, whatever. Sometimes what happens is we start to
Mm-hmm.
create rules because we think those rules and those
Mm-hmm.
adherence to those rules will make us
Mm-hmm.
happy. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? That will
Yes,
help to fill a
yes,
void. So we create
yes,
more rules like if just this happens, I'll be happier. If just this happens, I'll be happy. If this just happens, so we become
yes,
more and more demanding of people to
yes,
fulfill a
yeah,
void versus really and
yes.
truly a requirement that is, needed of that
Yeah,
person.
it kind of reminds me of like people who start to pick up these OCD tendencies, like where the O is the obsessive, right? The obsessions, which are thoughts. The C in OCD is compulsions, which are acts, right? The compulsive behaviors. And so it's like they obsess over if I do this, then maybe this good thing will happen, right? And so then this is part of the whole step on a crack, break mama's back, like avoiding cracks or flipping on the switches or counting or tapping so many times with not just your right hand, but now you got to even it out with your left hand. And it's like that. Like you're making up rules that are nonsensical, but in your mind, they make sense. And you're making them like you're holding it. It's kind of like how we hold diamonds like valuable and it really don't even, I mean, it's nothingness. Like, you know what I mean? It
And it
doesn't
could be
have,
filling a personal void because remember,
that's
I
it.
told you America is one of the loneliest countries in the world.
That's
So
it.
if I can create more rules, and
Yes.
also it's a matter of control.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Definitely.
control. I'm getting respect. I'm having
Yes.
control. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Fulfilling that void.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly control is exact, and it's something because even the silliest thing is like how a parent will, like you said, I'll use your word, micromanage as far as like and with rules, how things need to be, and it's like nonsensical where it doesn't. I understand, like, yeah, you can't have all your toys out, but it's like you're literally making up rules as you go, and some of them don't make sense, like having all these toys out at once. Like it's like that creates stress, like that stress or need to micromanage and control things is because the person feels out of control, and that's an anxiety spirit, a spirit called anxiety. I'm gonna call it a demon, right? Because it's not pleasant, right? It's not your friend. And it brings you with all these what ifs, and that's stressful. It even messes with your sleep at night when things are supposed to be calm and quiet. And guess what? That sort of, then we call it generational curse, then passes down to your child because as you do these things to your child, which predisposes them to also having this thing, you're unconsciously like preparing them to believe the way you believe. because it's not just your behaviors, but it's then the way you talk to them about how to manage the world, how to deal with people. I mean, there's people out here who think that they're, um, I'll just say this for a listener that hopefully is helpful. They might think that they're valueless, right? Worthless, because
Mm-hmm.
they was
Mm-hmm.
taught that people only want them for what they have, what they can do for them, who they are as far as occupationally, right? Like I'm a lawyer. And so, whenever they then do truly attract like their spouse, their mate, the one who was created for them, they can self-sabotage because they can make the person feel as if like you only want me, like you can't truly just want me, like you only want me for my money. And it's like, dude, like did you forget I was with you before you started law school, for example, right? I have a client who, was talking about this. And so stuff like that, even it's because the person, your parent, would have instilled in you these lies about your self-worth, because it's almost like telling you you aren't valuable unless you do these things, and that's part of what maybe makes you go to law school. You know what I mean?
But and I also want to say once again with regards to the antagonizing approach and creating the uneasiness, if you
Mm-hmm.
create that uneasiness in the listener, guess what? You maintain control. And
That's
that
it.
control makes you feel like you're valued. I always say, does somebody come to you because they need you, or does
Mm,
somebody come to you because they want to laugh with you? So
mm,
sometimes people will come to you and they will placate you and they'll compliment you and they'll do all those things for you because they need you. They need something from you. But then
mm.
there's sometimes people will come to you because they're like, look, I just called you because I want to laugh. I'm just
Yes.
coming over to your desk because I know there's going to be something silly. I just da 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 da. What
Wow.
yeah,
Yes.
and you have to think about how you're being viewed and how you want to be viewed. And once you think about that, then it will, it can change the way
Hmm.
you treat others. Like when people leave your environment, do they leave laughing and smiling,
Wow.
or do
Right.
they leave your environment stressed out?
Exactly. And
Do,
feeling
do you
less
have to
than.
keep calling them and asking them to come to your environment, or do
Wow.
they willingly or of free
Yes.
will come to your environment? So
Wow. Wow.
you want, I would hope that you'd want to be that person where
Exactly.
people are like, hey, look, I want to stop by just to say hi, or I just called because I was thinking about you,
And
or.
honestly, I feel like I feel like everybody who isn't like dealing with some kind of demonic spirit would want that, right? Like, but it's like they don't know how to get there. And I mean, some of the sort of basic things that one could do is literally just go online and start to research like what are some natural